This morning I took time to take a look at my business plan and what I'm gonna do. And I know a couple of days ago I was talking about when I take a look at what I'm doing and I consider it for what it is. I've always said that in terms of running a business, one of the most practical things that I had to learn how to do in terms of running a business was I had to learn to consider the money, right? I have to take a look at something and I have to determine how much money is going to be involved, right? And in terms of my perspective, you know, I was talking about this, but over the next 365 days, I will be utilizing about $750,000 to about $1 million worth of capital. And when I use that $750,000 to $1 million worth of capital, I will actually be making a net return. Right, the whole idea of utilizing capital for me in terms of like if I were to speak about money, right? What's the purpose of money, right? In terms of the main utilization, in terms of what do I do with money? I do not, when I think of money, I do not think of paying my bills. I do not think of buying new cars. I don't think of, you know, buying myself a new home. What do I think about when it comes to money, right? I have an investment funnel. The big idea with money is to make more money with it. If you have $1 and you can turn that $1 into $1.10, if you can make a 10% return, and I've talked about this in terms of a broader concept, but if you are capable of knowledgeably appreciating money, if you can knowledgeably increase the amount of money that you have with the money that you have, then you effectively become a money printing machine. I talk about this all the time. It is a very important concept, you know, in terms of the reality that I have, you know, in terms of what I see, you know, that's one of the most important things to understand, is that when you fundamentally understand that you can appreciate assets profitably, you put $1 into something and you understand to a very, very, very fine detail how to turn that $1 into $1.10. If you figure out that you can turn $1 into $1.25, whatever it may be, as long as you can increase the value of the, you know, the amount of money that you have with the money that you have, you effectively become a money printing machine. All right, that's the most whatever way that I see it. If you learn how to appreciate, you know, in terms of me, I've talked about this in terms of assets. You know, if I appreciate the value of my assets profitably, that's what made me a money printing machine. If you want to know what made me like, when you take a look at what I do and you say, you know, this guy, you know, legitimately and, you know, makes like the most money that I have ever seen in my entire life. All right, and you know, but that I made my money via equity. All right, I have money and I use that money, and when I use that money, I turn that money into more money. Right, and I talk about this in terms of a concept, the investment funnel. Right, why do I have an investment funnel? Right, and so, you know, and what is the investment, etc. But you know, this morning I was actually sitting there on the table and I actually wrote down my business plan on a piece of paper and I took a picture of it, and so I'll post it as the preview for this video so that y'all get to see what I wrote down. But right now, the goal right now is that, you know, I went over there to my new field. I went to my new field and I took a look, right? And I have some grass. It's not the highest quality grass. It's not the highest quality grass, but I mean, it's still grass and the animals will eat it. And I'm only going to have about 10 to 20 animals over there from the beginning. And so it's not that big of a deal. You know, I'm going to fertilize the best portions of my grass, and I'm going to wait until the snap kills the sagebrush. And when the cold kills the sagebrush, I'm going to take a look at what needs to happen, and maybe I put Duracore on the field next year, etc., whatever it may be, right? And so right now, the plan for the cattle is to take them up to an 850-pound target weight for market. I have 33 animals, and the feeder cattle market is actually sitting at about 250, 260 right now, but you know, I've already said that I don't think that the cattle market is going to skyrocket. I don't see the cattle market skyrocketing any higher. And you know, in terms of why do I think that? Well, I mean, in reality, the corn market is so low that I legitimately do not think that the corn market is going to go any lower for like the next 10 years. You know, I don't think that the corn market is going to go lower in terms of the broader, you know, the broader economy, I don't see a raging inflation happening. But you know, if inflation goes out of control, and then sure, the cattle market may go higher. But I mean, you know, I don't logically foresee that. And if this detail changes, I will make a video and I will say, okay, I actually think that the cattle market is going to rage higher. All right, I will make a video and I will say, you know, for these reasons, I believe that the cattle market is going to continue to skyrocket. But I don't think that the cattle market is going to continue to skyrocket. If anything, it's going to go sideways and then it's going to go lower. All right, and I actually talked about this. Where do I think when I take a look at the broader commodity markets and when I take a look at the overall, you know, the interest rate environment and the overall economy, et cetera, where do I think that the cattle market is going to go? I think it's going to go to about $2. All right, as it stands today, I think it's going to go to about $2. And you know, I've already talked about all of these different things, right? You know, I would suggest that you don't get into the cattle feeding business, because more, you know, sooner than later, it is a matter of when. It is not a matter of if. The corn market is going to go up and the cattle market is going to drop simultaneously. And if the corn market goes up and the cattle market goes down at the same time, I call that the double whammy, right? And then if you get hit by the double whammy and you don't have the proper business plan and et cetera, you're effectively, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you look at it in terms of a broader perspective, and you take a look at it from like from 100 feet back, and you take a look at it, I mean, if you get in the cattle feeding business, your chances of succeeding are effectively about 33%. If you take a look at the long average, right? I mean, because then it's like you know, 33% of the time you'll make a substantial amount of money. 33% of the time you'll barely make enough money to get by. You might as well have just done something else. And then 33% of the time you will actually lose money. And so, I mean, you know, in reality, and I've already said that if you want to start a business, in terms of a business, the only time that I would ever start a business is if I can make a drastic amount of money. Like, why am I going and buying myself more land? So that I can make myself a drastic sum of money, right? I mean, I'm not, oh my God, this has always been my dream. And, you know, this has always been, you know, it doesn't matter. All right, nobody cares. Why am I going to go and buy myself this new piece of land, right? Why am I going to go and do this? Because when I do it, I'm going to make a drastic sum of money. All right, and so, you know, and I was talking, you know, I'm going to talk about my business plan. Right now, the average market target weight is going to be 850. I'm going to take these animals up to 850. You know, the feeder cattle market right now is sitting at about 250, 260. And so if I use my low ball appraisal method, you know, I think that I'm going to make somewhere around $1.90. You're right, $1.90 at 850. I think I'm, you know, if I estimate that I'm going to make $1,600 per animal, that's a very reasonable estimate. It's a good low ball estimate. So at $1,600 per animal, that's 53 grand. All right, so that's 53 grand. And I have about 40,000 in debt. And so 53 grand with 40,000 in debt means I'm net positive $13,000. And also I'm net positive $13,000 after I put it's about $25,000 into my new property. And I've only, and these cattle, you know, I would have only been running them for 9 months, right? And so I'm still net positive about 13 grand after everything. I still have about $13,000 left over. If I had just continued to run cattle on my field, I would have had, you know, and I took my money and I reinvested it and I compounded my growth. I mean, I would have had, you know, a borderline, like I don't even know. It would have been like somewhere between 60, 80, 100, something like that, $100,000 cash left over, even on this 10.5 acre field. All right. And so, you know, I'm net positive 13 grand. And if I have $53,000 and I'm net positive my own money, 13 grand, and I retake my loan for 40 grand, and I take my $53,000, instead of investing 40 grand, now I invest 53 grand, I will buy 65 animals. And if I buy 65 animals and I utilize my 20% death loss number, and I am working on my onboarding program, right? I've talked about this all the time. I am working on my onboarding program. I am looking to reduce my death loss percentages. That's one of the metrics that I am measuring to, you know, I want to reduce my death loss percentages in terms of the smaller calves. How am I going to do that? By working on my onboarding program. I've already talked about my onboarding program, you know, my new onboarding program. When I bring more animals in, I'll talk about that. And so, you know, I'll go into further detail about that. And so if I use the 20% death loss number, that puts me at 55 animals. And if I have 55 animals and I consider just the debt, for $40,000 worth of debt, I would have a break even of $725, which would mean that I already, and this is going to be me utilizing an $850 figure to purchase new animals. And so I would already be in the net positive right from the beginning. Even after I lost 10 calves, I would still be in the net positive. But if I'm going to include my principal as well, if I'm going to include the principal money that I invested into my business, that's the 13 grand that I now have a $930 break even. I need to make $930 per animal for me to break even. And so effectively I would have to take a 200 pound animal up to about 350 pounds. And for me to take a 200 pound animal up to about 350 pounds, it would take me about maybe about 2 months, especially if I'm onboarding new calves and then I need to get them gaining. I need to, you know, get them straightened up and then I need to get them gaining. It's going to take me about 2 months for me to put about 130 pounds, 150 pounds on. It's going to take me maybe even 2 or 3 months. You know, I'll have to see, right? But I mean, realistically, I'll have to get them to about 350. All right. You know, and so, it's going to take me about 2 or 3 months, 2.5 months to get them straightened up and gaining. And so, you know, after that, I have hit my break even. And, you know, these numbers, they're going to work if the feeder cattle market goes between 240 and 250. But I've already talked about in terms of a broader concept, in terms of the idea of the feeder cattle market. It's like if you're sitting there concerned, like if you are legitimately sitting there concerned that the price of cattle are going to go to zero, you're wasting your time. All right. You know, cattle are not going to zero. All right. I don't know how else to put that for you. I mean, you know, like if you legitimately think that cattle are going to be free, like that is legitimately what you think, that one day you're going to wake up and cattle are going to be free. If that is legitimately what you think, I mean, you know, you need to really sit there and find your peace with God. All right. I mean, that's not good. Cattle are not going to zero. All right, where do I think the cattle market is going? I honestly think it's going to $2. All right, and even if it falls $2, I've already talked about in terms of my, you know, I've taken a look at the situation and I've made my business plan the way that I made my business plan, because you know, I anticipate that half the time the market is going to fall. I've already talked about this, but you know, in terms of a broader, if you actually take a look at the markets in terms of a conceptual reality, 33% of the time the markets will fall, 33% of the time the markets will go sideways, and 33% of the time the markets will go up. All right, but the whole idea about my business plan is that I buy into the cattle market very frequently, right? I buy into the cattle market every 2 weeks. I don't take all of my money and dump my money into cattle all at once. Right? I don't go and buy I don't go and buy 55 cattle at the same time. I go to the sale barn by myself and I pick out my animals one at a time on my own. And I do this about every week, every 2 weeks. That's the plan. Right? And why do I do that? Because if I buy into the market more frequently, then I will effectively negate the benefits of having the markets go up, but I will also negate the losses from the markets going down. And if the markets go sideways, I still make money anyway. I make a drastic sum of money. Right? I'm in the grass growing business. If the markets go sideways and my grass does good, then I make a ballistic amount of money. And so, you know, if the feeder cattle market falls, and I've already talked about this, but if the feeder cattle market, you know, persistently falls throughout a year or so, then it doesn't matter. Eventually, the markets will turn themselves around, right? Eventually, the markets are not going to fall forever. If you think about the idea of markets falling forever, that means you're talking about cattle going to zero. And if you think that cattle are going to zero, I mean, you should probably just keep that BS to yourself. Cattle are not going to zero. All right, think about it. All right, I think that the cattle market is going to go to about $2. That's what I think. All right, and so when I take a look at my numbers, you know, I I have a 350 pound break even. And so that means when I take my animals to 850 pounds and I make the $1,600 for them, I will be netting a positive of $35,000, and I will also get my $13,000 back. So I will be net positive $48,000. That will mean that if I run 55 cattle, when I run 55 cattle, I will make about $5,333 a month. That is about how much I will make. So if I run 55 cattle, I will make about $5,300 a month. And for me to pay for my new land and to pay for everything, I'm going to have to use about 35 cattle worth of money every year. It will take me about 35 cattle worth of money every year to pay for my new land. But on my new piece of land, I got a non-payment agreement until April, right? And so my first year that, you know, and we can, it doesn't matter. If you don't understand money, we can use cattle. It doesn't matter. We can swap them out, vice versa. It's the same thing, right? And so if I need to use 35 cattle worth of money and I have a non-payment agreement for the first 1/4 of the year, then effectively the first year I only need to have about 28 cattle, 27 cattle, 25 cattle, something like that worth of money to float my debt service for the first year. All right, and so if I, and right now I have 33. I don't have to effectively pay anything until about April, right? Because the grass, I mean, the couple of acres, the 15 acres of grass that I need to fertilize, it's going to cost me like $500, right? I'm not going to reseed it or anything. I'm just going to broadcast fertilizer on it, and I'm going to broadcast that fertilizer using a ground-driven broadcaster spreader. And so, you know, it's effectively $500. $500. I'm going to be using about $500 a month. And so for the for me, and I will effectively be making probably about $5,000 or so a month, right? And so I mean I'll be making about $3,500 a month or so, and it'll cost me about $500. And then in April, I will have if you took a look at my bigger animals, like this one right here, I would say that he's about 600 pounds right now. And he's probably going to be about 850 in April. And so I'll start selling cattle in April. The rest of these animals, I would say that the average weight of my herd right now is about 425 to 450 pounds. And within about April, the average weight of my herd is probably going to be about a 650. And so, you know, and I'll have animals ready to go. And I'm going to be in the net positive. I'll probably be in the net positive, well, I would anticipate that I'm going to be in net positive about 10 grand. And then if I reinvest my money, the money that I have, and I retake my loans, I will have about okay, but here is the part where things get a little bit spicy. All right, and this is going to be the part where it's like you better hold on to your britches, because it's gonna get a little bumpy. But this is the part that it's like now we're gonna go away from and now we're gonna talk about if I'm going to be net positive $5,000 a month. And I've already talked about this, but me, because of because of the tax situation, because of the et cetera, the overall, the idea of the business, and et cetera, and risk exposure, right? And so when I look at my asset portfolio, when I take a look at my, I've always said that cattle are effectively a cash equivalent, right? Cattle to me are effectively a cash equivalent. They're good as money, right? Worth their weight in gold is what they say, right? And so, when I take a look at my asset portfolio and I realize that my asset portfolio is in the net positive, and I triple 5,000 check my work. All right, I take a look at them and I make sure that and if I want to, whatever, right? I take a look at, what did my animals sell for? What kind of weight did they hit on the scale? And then I take a look at the overall, and I check everything 5,000 times. All right, and I take a look at it, and I'm not, because here's the thing, I'm not encouraging anybody to take debt. All right, I've already said that in terms of a fundamental idea, debt, You don't want to leverage yourself to the eyeballs. You don't want to throw money at something thinking that it's going to work, because that's not how it works. All right, if you're going to do something, you need to make sure that you actually follow all of the steps. You cannot just do the things that you want. You have to make sure that you're actually following the details and you understand the details of what is happening. All right, because I've already said that if you go underwater, if you flop on your deal, you will probably fail forever. I mean, you will probably not recover forever. Legitimately, that is how bad it becomes. All right, that is a double-edged sword. All right, you need to understand that debt is risk. All right, you know, I am not encouraging anybody to leverage themselves to the eyeballs to start a business. All right, that is not what I'm saying. All right, I put emphasis on this idea all the time. Me, the way that I utilize debt is that when I can make a positive return on the money and I have objectively looked at the situation and I am in the net positive, I will take a loan for that net positive appraisal value and use that money to purchase more equitable assets. That's how I utilize debt. All right, and so if I believe that I am going to be net positive $5,000 a month, I will take a loan for $5,000 a month. Effectively, another 60 grand over the course of the year. And if I take a loan, you know, and you have to understand that as I go, I will also be producing cash flow. All right, and this is how I ultimately get to the number. You know, if I run my business just as it is, I don't leverage for, you know, I just take my loan, the same loan that I have, and I take the principal amount of money that I have and I reinvest this capital, I will end up with about $48,000 net positive. But if I believe that I am going to be $48,000 net positive, and I start collecting money, and I'm like, okay, this is actually the situation that I'm in, is that I am net positive this amount of money. I will take a loan for $48,000 and then utilize that money to purchase more cattle. All right, and when I do that, I would anticipate, when I take a loan for the net positive appraisal value of my asset portfolio, I will, at that point, I will have somewhere between 100 to 120 cattle by about about halfway through next year. And if I have 100 and 120 cattle, and let's say that I'm net positive, whatever, 60 grand, right? Because I had my 13 grand in it. I had my $13,000 in it, and then I had, the 48,000 figure is what the 13,000 included. So let's say that I have $48,000 of my own money in it, and I have a $48,000 loan that puts me at a net zero balance. All right, I have $48,000 of my own money in it. I have $48,000 of the bank's money in it. That puts me at a net zero balance. But now I am appreciating 110 cattle at the same time. And if you think about that, if I am appreciating 110 cattle at the same time, think about in terms of compounding money. Think about, I mean, the money is going to go, I mean, I would anticipate, and this is also what I mean by within about 365 days, I will actually probably have to tie up another piece of land on a non-payment agreement. I will probably have to do it, because if I don't do it, I will be stuck in a situation where I need to purchase like 250 cattle. All right, and so, I'm probably going to tie up another piece of land on a non-payment agreement, and I will probably be net positive liquid cash about somewhere between $75,000 and $100,000 in the next 365 days. And you can hold on to this video for reference, and you can come back to this video in November of next year, and you can see what happened. And I'll even take a picture of my business plan, and you can come back and reference it in 1 year. All right, this is the direction that I believe that I'm going. If the feeder cattle market falls, it's not that big of a problem. It's just going to make things slower for me, and that's not a big issue. I'll just buy on the way down, and eventually the markets will turn themselves around. The markets are not going down forever. If the markets went down forever, that's effectively saying that the cattle market is going to zero, and the cattle market is not going to zero. Don't be an idiot. All right, and so and if the cattle market falls, I've already said the cattle market needs to sit at somewhere between 240 and 250 for this to happen, right? And so, and you can, make sure that you actually go through the details one at a time, and you actually understand the fine print. All right, don't just pick and choose the things that you want. Take a look at everything for what it is. All right, and so if the feeder cattle market goes sideways, and you know, and I utilize my assets as they are right now, and I have a non-payment agreement until April of next year, you know, and then I reinvest my earnings, etc., I will end up with about 100 to 120 cattle in about maybe about 6 months. All right, because maybe not even 6 months, maybe 5 months, maybe about May. I was saying about April or May. You know, I would say that the average weight of my herd right now is about 425, and the target market weight is 850. And so if I anticipate that I'm going to put 75 pounds a month on each animal, then I mean we're talking about 5 months, right? 6 months. And so, and it's November right now, and so about May of next year. I was saying about April, but May close enough, right? I mean, it's the same difference. And so, you know, and then if I'm, you know, when I make the money, and then you know, I start going into the net positive with my assets, I will take a loan for that net positive appraisal value, and I will reinvest that money. I will invest that money, not reinvest it. I will invest that net positive loan for the net positive value of my animals into more cattle. All right, and then I'm gonna start appreciating my assets, and you know, I would say that I probably go net positive about $100,000 of liquid, about $75,000, $100,000 of liquid cash in the next about 365 days. And I believe that in terms of a monetary idea, I am at a point where it's at a rate of inflection. I am legitimately about to go vertical with my finances. All right, and when you take a look, don't get discouraged. I always say this: you should not be looking at me going, I want to make net positive $100,000 a year. I mean, we're talking about, I pay for everything and I still have like $100,000 a year left over cash. You know, in terms of an equitable evaluation, it's multi-millions of dollars. I mean, I don't, like if you legitimately, I've always said that, and I was even talking about this yesterday, but, if you legitimately want to get here, there is no skipping the work. You're not going to get here if you skip the work. If you're legitimately not sitting there going, oh my God, I'm legitimately going to work every single day for the next 15 years of my life, you're not going to make it. You're effectively going to, you cannot skip that part. It doesn't matter what you think. I mean, if you want to be poor, go and be poor by yourself, right? I mean, don't drag other people into being poor with you. You should probably keep your BS to yourself, all right? You don't want to end up being poor. All right, and it's like, if you legitimately, and I'm giving you, I'm giving you these numbers, and I'm giving you all of this because at the end of the day, my results are extremely good. All right, in terms of a like a broader reality, if we were to take a look at what I do, and if we were to take a look at the overall U.S. economy, I'm in like the top 0.00001% to the top 0.00001% of the entire U.S. economy, all right? And so I'm giving you the things that I'm doing, and I'm giving them to you with the utmost sincerity. I am not giving you the wrong information on purpose. I am legitimately giving you the information that I am going to utilize to push my business further. All right, I'm looking to expand my business. At the end of the day, if I wanted to run cattle on a 10.5 acre field forever and just sit here and make my $70,000, $80,000 a year, I could always come back and do that. There's no reason for me to do that. I'm already in the net positive, right? When I take a look at what I'm doing, I used like 25 grand, and I'm still in the net positive 15 grand. It's only been 9 months. All right, and so if I wanted to come back and farm a 10.5 acre field forever, I could do it. All right, it's not like oh my God, but I've decided that I want to go, and I want to do more for myself, right? And this is also the beauty of being in a capitalistic society, is that at the end of the day, I'm the one who can make the money. I'm the one who knows how to make the money, and at the end of the day, when you're going to talk about money, money talks. All right, and so it is what it is. I mean, it's like I don't ask for opinions from people, right? I mean, people, most people are idiots. I don't ask for opinions from people. I mean, if anything, I find my peace with God. I mean, it just is what it is, all right? I mean, I don't sell my soul to the devil to make money. You know, I'm not selling you anything. You know, I don't even care if you lived or died. I mean, if you dropped dead today, it wouldn't matter anything to me. I mean, at the end of the day, if I want to make more money, I'll just run more cattle. I'm not going to go and sell my soul to the devil to make money. If I want to make more money, I'll just run more cattle, right? I mean, it's that simple for me. You know, and so, you know, I've given you my business plan. What am I going to be working on over the next year? How do I see things occurring? What are the parameters that need to be met for this this plan to work, and et cetera, et cetera. All right, so that's it for me today, YouTube. Y'all have a good one.